9 years old, Wendell Pierce made an honest living, earning a steady $61,000 a year as an HVAC technician in Charlotte, North Carolina. His hands, calloused and capable, could diagnose the subtle death rattle of a failing compressor or coax life back into a furnace on the coldest day of the year. He lived in the same modest duplex on West Boulevard that he'd grown up in, a home filled with the quiet echoes of his father. And on a Tuesday afternoon, at exactly 4:18 p.m., his carefully constructed world was devastated by a single piece of certified mail. The crisp white envelope contained a petition for divorce from his wife, Brianna. The rain that had been threatening all day finally broke, streaking down the windows of his living room as he stood there, the papers trembling in his hand. The words swam before his eyes: irretrievable breakdown, equitable distribution, demand for exclusive possession of the marital residence. The marital residence, this house, his father's house. He sank onto the worn fabric of his $400 Ashley furniture sofa, the one Brianna had always called a placeholder for something better. For 9 years, he had tried to be the man she wanted, a man who could somehow bridge the gap between his world of ductwork and Freon and her world of brunch reservations and boutique shopping in South Park. He had failed. He read the petition again, a cold knot tightening in his stomach. She wanted the house, half of their savings, and alimony. She was being represented by a law firm with an address on Sharon Road, a place where the hourly billing rates were likely more than he made in a week. A bitter laugh escaped him. Their savings. He knew what had been happening to their savings. He just hadn't wanted to believe it. Then, a memory surfaced, sharp and clear. It was from 2 years ago, in the quiet, sterile room at the Levine and Dixon Hospice House. His father, a man whose presence had been a mountain in Wendell's life, was diminished, his powerful frame withered by cancer. His voice was a rasp, but his eyes were clear. "Son," he'd whispered, his grip surprisingly strong on Wendell's arm. "I left a message on my old phone. The gray Nokia. Don't listen to it. Not until she files. You'll know when. Don't play it a second before." At the time, it had felt like the morphine-fueled rambling of a dying man. Wendell had promised, of course, tucking the memory away with the grief. He had kept the old phone, a relic from 2005, in the back of his sock drawer, a sentimental keepsake. Now his father's words echoed with chilling prescience. Not until she files. Last Tuesday she filed. He stood up, his movements stiff. He walked into his bedroom, past the king-sized bed that had felt empty for months, and opened the drawer. There it was, nestled between mismatched socks and old pay stubs, the $80 Nokia 3310, its plastic casing worn smooth. With a sense of dread and reverence, he plugged it into its ancient charger and waited for it to come to life. What could a man who had been dead for 2 years possibly have to say that could change anything now? He had no idea how wrong he was. Have you ever felt completely blindsided by someone you trusted? Tell us in the comments about a time you realized things weren't what they seemed. And stick around to see how a father's love reached across time to deliver justice. The early years with Brianna had been painted in the warm, hopeful colors of a Carolina sunrise. They met at a community jazz festival in Romare Bearden Park. He was there with some work buddies, still in his dusty $120 Red Wing boots after a long Friday. She was with friends, a vision in a simple yellow sundress that probably cost more than his boots, her laughter carrying over the sound of the saxophone. He was a quiet, steady man with deep brown skin that seemed to glow in the late afternoon sun and a smile that reached his kind eyes. She was vibrant, ambitious, a black woman with a sleek haircut, and a way of looking at him that made him feel like the only man in the park. Their first dates were simple: a walk along the Little Sugar Creek Greenway, sharing a $15 pizza from a local spot, talking for hours in his 2014 Ford F-150, a truck with 150,000 miles on it that was more office than vehicle to him. She didn't seem to mind his world then. She said she admired his work ethic, the way he could fix anything. "It's a real skill, Wendell," she'd said once, tracing the lines on his palm. "You build things. You make things work. I love that." They married a year later. He moved her into the duplex on West Boulevard, the other half of which was rented out to a quiet, elderly woman, providing a modest $850 a month in extra income. The house was his inheritance, left to him free and clear when his mother, his beloved mama, passed a decade prior. He and his father had renovated the kitchen themselves, spending $6,000 on new cabinets from Lowe's and a durable laminate countertop. Every corner held a memory. The scuff mark on the baseboard, where he'd crashed his toy truck as a boy. The faint smell of his mother's Sunday pot roast that never seemed to leave the walls. The sturdy back porch his father had built with his own hands. For Wendell, the house was a sanctuary. For Brianna, it was a stepping stone. The first signs of the facade cracking appeared about 3 years into the marriage, shortly after her younger sister Chloe moved back to Charlotte. Chloe was a different breed. Where Brianna had a spark of ambition, Chloe had a wildfire of it, fueled by a deep-seated need for luxury and status. She secured a job in marketing and rented a sleek one-bedroom apartment in South Park Tower for $2,200 a month, a glass tower that looked down on the world with cool indifference. Suddenly, their duplex wasn't cozy and full of character anymore. It was cramped and outdated. Wendell's F-150 wasn't rugged and dependable. It was an old work truck. His salary, once a point of stability, became a source of her frustration. Brianna started spending most of her weekends with Chloe in South Park. The sisters would go shopping at the South Park Mall, where Brianna would come home with bags containing a $1,800 Louis Vuitton handbag or a pair of $950 Christian Louboutin shoes, items that cost more than Wendell's entire monthly mortgage payment on the rental side of the duplex. "We have to look the part when," she'd say, arranging the new purchase on their bed. "Chloe's introducing me to people, important people. You have to spend money to make money." He'd nod, trying to understand. He managed their finances meticulously. He put 15% of his income into a 401k and another $500 a month into a joint savings account. The goal was to build a nest egg, to have security. For Brianna, the savings account became a slush fund. The dollar-tagged details of their diverging lives became a constant, unspoken tension. He'd come home, his $40 Dickies work pants smudged with grease, and find her scrolling through her phone looking at $5,000 vacation packages to St. Bart's. He'd pack his own $5 lunch every day, a turkey sandwich and an apple, while she and Chloe had $80 lunches at RH Rooftop Restaurant, posting stylized photos on Instagram. The contrast was stark, a silent argument happening in every corner of their lives. His life was built on the solid, tangible value of labor and savings. Hers was becoming a performance of wealth funded by his sweat. The cruelty wasn't always financial. It was in the casual, dismissive remarks that dripped like poison into the foundation of their marriage. The outrage accumulated not in one explosive fight, but in 1,000 tiny cuts. One Saturday, Wendell was in the backyard, carefully tending to the small vegetable garden his father had started years ago. It was his peace, his connection to the man who taught him everything. He had tomatoes, cucumbers, and collard greens coming in strong. His hands, covered in rich soil, were carefully staking a tomato plant. Brianna and Chloe came out onto the back porch. Chloe was wearing a white linen jumpsuit that probably cost $600 and sipping an iced coffee from a boutique cafe. Brianna, dressed in a matching athleisure set worth at least $300, looked down at him. "What are you doing?" she asked, her tone a mixture of boredom and disgust. Just tying up the tomatoes, Wendell said, smiling up at her, his deep brown face streaked with dirt. We'll have a good crop this year. Chloe let out a little laugh, a sharp, metallic sound. It's so rustic, like a little farmer. Brianna joined in the laughter. I know, right? Wendell and his little dirt patch. She turned to him. Wen, seriously, your hands are filthy. We're supposed to go to that wine tasting at the punch room later. You can't show up with dirt under your fingernails. The smile faded from Wendell's face. He looked at his hands, the hands that fixed air conditioners in the sweltering summer heat, that maintained the home they lived in, that earned the money she spent so freely. It's just dirt, Bree. It washes off. It's the principle of the thing, she said, sighing dramatically. Chloe's friend, the one who owns the gallery, he's going to be there. I can't have my husband looking like a grease monkey who plays in the mud. The words hung in the humid air. Grease monkey. She had used that one before. It was her go-to insult when she was particularly frustrated with their financial reality. Each time it felt like a slap. He said nothing, just turned back to his tomato plant, his shoulders tight. He heard Chloe whisper to Brianna, I don't know how you do it. He's just so simple. He heard Brianna's quiet, affirming hum. That was the day he stopped asking her to join him in the garden. The financial betrayals grew bolder. He'd check their joint savings account, the one labeled Future Fund in his online banking app, and see large withdrawals. First, it was $5,000. Oh, that, Brianna said when he asked, not even looking up from her iPad. Chloe needed a little help with the deposit for her new office space. It's an investment. She's starting her own consulting business. A month later, another $10,000 was gone. This time the excuse was more elaborate. It's for the LLC setup, Brianna explained, her voice smooth and practiced. Lawyer fees, registration costs. Chloe's going to pay it all back with interest once she lands her first big client. You have to trust me, Wendell. He wanted to trust her. He loved the woman he had married. But he was having a harder and harder time finding her inside this new person who spoke of LLCs and networking events with a breathless urgency. He started looking closer at the bank statements he usually just filed away. He saw charges from boutiques he'd never heard of, restaurants with entrees that cost $70, and a recurring charge for a business mentorship program that cost $1,500 a month. The worst moment came on their 8th wedding anniversary. Wendell had planned a quiet, romantic evening. He'd left work early, cooked her favorite meal, shrimp and grits the way his mother used to make it, and bought a beautiful bouquet of lilies, her favorite flower, for $50 from the local florist. He waited and waited. At 8 p.m. she texted, "So sorry, babe. Got held up with Chloe. This business launch is insane. Rain check?" He ate alone at their small kitchen table, the second plate sitting empty across from him. He felt a profound and hollow loneliness. Later that night, as she slept, he felt a gnawing suspicion he couldn't shake. He went to his small home office, a corner of the spare bedroom, and logged into the bank account again. He saw a new withdrawal, made that very day, a wire transfer for $25,000. He felt the air leave his lungs. When he confronted her the next morning, she flew into a rage. "For God's sake, Wendell, can you stop micromanaging me?" she yelled, her face contorted with anger. "It's my money too. It's for the business." Chloe had a huge opportunity, a chance to partner with a major brand, but we needed to show significant capital. This is going to make us rich. Why can't you see the bigger picture? "The bigger picture looks like our entire savings are gone, Brianna," he said, his voice rising for the first time in years. "That was $74,000 we saved. Together. And it's just gone." "It's not gone, it's invested," she shot back. She grabbed her $2,400 Burberry trench coat from the hook by the door. "I can't talk to you when you're like this. You just don't get it. You're happy in your little world with your little truck and your little salary. Some of us want more." She slammed the door behind her, leaving him in a silence that was louder than her shouting. He sat down, overwhelmed. He thought about his father, about his quiet wisdom and his warnings about people who valued appearances over substance. What she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly comprehend, was that the biggest picture of all was waiting silently on a dead man's phone. They had no idea what was coming. Tuesday, 5:03 p.m. The rain had softened to a miserable drizzle. The divorce papers lay on the coffee table, a testament to 9 years of erosion. Wendell sat in his father's old armchair, a worn leather piece that had cost his dad $600 in 1998 and was now priceless to him. The old Nokia was fully charged, its small monochrome screen glowing with an eerie light. His thumb hovered over the keypad. He felt like he was about to break a sacred vow. Don't play it a second before. But the moment had come. She had filed. He navigated the simple menu, his fingers feeling clumsy on the tiny buttons. Inbox 1. The message was dated 2 days before his father's passing. He pressed play. The speaker crackled to life, and then he heard it. His father's voice. Not the weak, raspy whisper from the hospice bed, but his real voice. Deep, calm, and steady. The sound of it was a physical blow, and Wendell had to close his eyes against a sudden wave of grief and love. "Wendell, son," the voice began, as if his father were sitting right there in the room. "If you're hearing this, it means I was right to worry. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're going through whatever it is that made you play this. But a man's got to protect his own. And you are my own." There was a pause, the sound of his father taking a breath. "Now listen close, about the house, the duplex on West Boulevard. It's not in your name. It was never in your name after you married her. The day you said, 'I do,' I went to my lawyer, and I put that house free and clear into a trust, an irrevocable trust. It's called the Wendell Senior Family Trust. You're the beneficiary, but you're not the owner. The trust is. That means it's not a marital asset. It was never part of the marriage. She can't touch it. She can't claim it. She can't force you to sell it. It's yours, but it's protected. It was your mama's home, and I'll be damned if I let anyone take it from her boy." Wendell's jaw went slack. He stared, unseeing, at the wall. An irrevocable trust. He barely knew what that meant, but the certainty in his father's voice was absolute. "The lawyer you need to call is Abraham Davison," the voice continued. "Davison and Sons. He's an old friend. He set the whole thing up. He has all the paperwork. His number is 704-550-0182. Don't call anyone else. Just call Abe. He'll know what to do. He'll protect you, just like I would." The message wasn't over. "One more thing, son. I've seen the way she looks at money. I've seen the way her sister looks at the world. Be careful with your savings. People like that. They see a man like you, a good, hard-working man, as a resource to be tapped, not a partner to build with. I hope I'm wrong about her. I pray to God I'm wrong. But I've been around long enough to know a hawk from a sparrow. This trust, it's your shield. Use it." The voicemail ended. There was a soft click, followed by the hiss of static. The room was silent again, save for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall, another family heirloom. Wendell sat motionless for a full 10 minutes. The shock was a physical weight. His father, the quiet HVAC man, had executed a legal maneuver of such profound foresight it was staggering. He had seen the potential for this exact disaster years ago and built a firewall around the most important thing he had to leave his son, his home. The house wasn't just brick and mortar. It was his entire history, his stability, his legacy. And his father had saved it from beyond the grave. The feeling wasn't triumph, not yet. It was a deep, aching gratitude that was intertwined with the fresh pain of Brianna's